It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Well, a big commitment from Davion Thompson. We're going to discuss that. The big question, I guess, with this five-star addition is whether he's going to be in the class of 2026 as a reclassified guy or in 2027. So we'll talk about that more with Connor Goodson. The Arkansas football kickoff windows have been announced. We'll talk about some of those game times and what that looks like for Arkansas football. Razorback recruiting continues to roll in football, and we're going to talk about that as well. And we'll get to your questions. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team knows stretching your dollar is important. With prices at the pump, interest rates, and everything else, we focus on making your life more affordable by offering vehicles with the highest rated fuel economy and safety features, plus a large selection of crossover and hybrid vehicles. We make it easy to get on the road with a vehicle that won't break the bank. We have a vehicle for every lifestyle and every budget. Come get one at one of our 17 statewide locations or visit crainteam.com today. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
Real quick, also, Hog Sports is 60% off for just a couple more days. That's $84 off the regular rate. It breaks down to $56 total. Do the math. That's $1 a week for the number one independent source on Arkansas sports and recruiting. Sign up today at Hog Sports. All right, let's start off with the kickoff windows, and we'll have Connor Goodson hopping on here in just a few more minutes. But we obviously knew the first three games. None of those kickoff times were really good. North Alabama, 3:15, September 5th. The heat, the sun, September. I don't know why it's at 3:15, but it is. At Utah, 9:15 Central Time. Super late game. I don't know if Arkansas has ever played a game that late. And, in the mountain time zone, obviously 8:15, but I mean, all the way on the Eastern Coast, that's a 10:15 kickoff to watch that game. And then you come back and you got a quick turnaround because you play Georgia at 11 a.m. That game is on ABC, so you do get a great network for that one. But 11 o'clock, you'd obviously like to open the home slate up with a little bit later. All right, now for the games that have been just now announced as of yesterday. We were actually ready for this one. I looked at past years, like, okay, June 11th is when they announced these. Of course, they did this one June 10th. So we got to be ready for this. But Tulsa, 7 o'clock on SEC Network Plus. So this will be a streaming game, but it is a night game. So you do have a guaranteed night game pretty early in the season against Tulsa. October 3rd, you're on the road. You're a flex between 2:30 and 7 o'clock. Sometime between then. We don't know the network that'll be on. I mean, it'll be in the ESPN, ABC family. But at Texas A&M, 2:30 to 7. Then you come back home to Fayetteville against Tennessee on October 10th. And we know that game is going to be sometime between 2:30 and 7 o'clock. Could be a night game, but 2:30 is not a bad kickoff time. That gives you time to tailgate, to have fun. If you're out of town, it's not a bad trip getting back home. Gives recruits an opportunity to come in. So 2:30 to 7 o'clock for that one. Then you're back on the road at Vanderbilt. You get a 2:30 to 7 o'clock window for that one. October 30, after a bye week, get a bye week after that. Then you're back home in Fayetteville for October 31st against Missouri. Again, that same flex window, 2:30 to 7. So not a morning game again, 2:30 to 7 o'clock sometime. All right, then, and maybe some of this could depend on like how your season's going also. And then you go at Auburn. It's a morning game, 11 to noon at Auburn. So that's not bad. You want to be on the road for morning games, ideally. for the same reasons you want a night game at home if you're Arkansas. So at Auburn, 11 to noon, that'll probably be the only game that I do not go to. I mean, I guess it's possible that if I go, I would just sit in the stands, but I'm not going to go sit in that press box. But that's November 7th. November 14th, you come back and you've got South Carolina at home. Again, 2:30 to 7 o'clock window. Some of these will be night, some of these will be day, but 2:30 to 7 o'clock window at home November 14th. Pretty good deal. And then you're at Texas again for the second year in a row. That'll be afternoon, 2:30 to 3:30, sometime around there. And then you return home and you have an early game the day after Thanksgiving at 11 o'clock. That's probably the only one you'd like to see a little bit later, but 11 to noon for that one. So not bad overall. You've got one guaranteed out of the new games that are listed. You've got one guaranteed home morning game, and that's LSU at the end of the season. Everything else could be 2:30 to 7 after that Tulsa game. That's Tulsa games at 7 o'clock after the first three games that were already announced, I should say. North Alabama, Utah, Georgia, and then all these other games were just announced. So again, Tulsa at 7, and then I'm going to mention the home games. Tulsa at 7, Tennessee 2:30 to 7, Missouri 2:30 to 7, South Carolina 2:30 to 7, LSU 11 to noon. That's not bad. That's not bad overall. And the schedule, shapes up pretty good in terms of homes and away games. Like, and we've discussed this, but you open at home, then you go on the road, then you're home, then you're home again, road, home, road, bye, home, road, home, road, home. Very alternating-y. That's not bad. It's as far as the schedule shapes up in terms of, like, for the fans, that's about as good as you could hope for the way the schedule shapes up in home and away games. Especially, like, I mean, compared to past years, like where we've seen Arkansas play in like 5 or 6 different venues to open the season up, or not have an SEC home game until, October, like, stuff like that. I think it actually shapes up pretty well overall. Okay, we're going to be joined by Connor Goodson here in a little bit. Track and field is going on right now, men's and women's nationals. The championships, Arkansas men have a really good shot at it. I'm not sure what happened yesterday, but they run July 10th through the 12th for the men, and the women run the 11th through the 13th. And you can typically watch broadcast around 8 o'clock. I'm not sure. Let's see. Championships live across ESPN, ESPN2, and ESPN Plus. To view the full hour-by-hour events, check out NCAA D1 daily schedule. All right, we're going to get to Connor here if he hops on in a second. Before we get to Connor, I want to tell you about Blakeman's Fine Jewelry. Blakeman's is proud to be the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Ben Blakeman and his team had an exciting year in their new flagship space at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers, and are continuing their signature hospitality and service in 2026. Visit them. They'll offer to clean your jewelry, offer you a coffee beverage from Cafe B, or a glass of their own Blakeman's Prosecco, which, by the way, is offered at various stores in Northwest Arkansas. And if you can't make it, did you know you could also shop them online at BlakemansFineJewelry.com? It's time to start thinking. Well, it's not time to start thinking about Mother's Day. That's an old read. Built on tradition since 1987, Blakeman's has been Northwest Arkansas's trusted destination for exceptional jewelry and personalized service. It is time to start thinking about Father's Day for the 5% of the population that watches this show who are females. Not a lot. But it is time to start thinking about Father's Day, and they've got a selection of watches and rings, all kinds of stuff. And homeware. There's also all kinds of homeware as well. All right. Connor should be joining us here shortly, but he's probably, he had to restart his computer. Booting back up. All right. So he's going to be a little bit delayed. So I'll probably, since he's late, give him a hard time about the Spurs, because he is a huge Spurs fan. As we know, in the NBA Finals, Knicks won. Okay, let's back up a little bit. But Knicks won game 1 in San Antonio, 105-95. All right, one game 2, a nail biter, 105-104. Spurs then go to Madison Square Garden, first game in Madison Square Garden for an NBA Finals since 1999, and the Spurs won 115-111. Then they go up 29 points on the Knicks, including 20 points in the fourth quarter, 20-point lead in the fourth quarter. The Knicks storm all the way back and win the game. Took a late lead. I think they went up 106, 105 very late, and then Spurs hit a couple of free throws to go up. Then there was it was a turnover or a rebound or a steal. I can't even remember exactly what happened, but I just know Fox goes to the other end with like 9 seconds left and tries to shoot the ball with a 1-point lead. Here he is. Connor, we're talking about the NBA Finals.
Oh, God. I was hoping you did not bring that up.
Well, what Fox tries to shoot that layup at the other end. How much time was left? 9 seconds, 7 seconds?
Yeah, if he would have dribbled it out, I think he got the ball with like 15 seconds left. And if he'd have gotten the ball, there probably would have been about 7 seconds left in the game, and he would have been shooting free throws. I've watched that playback an ungodly amount of times already.
Well, Wemby also can't miss 2 free throws in a clutch moment like that.
But when you're up 30, you also don't play him 44 minutes. Like, he played 44 minutes. 7-4. He played the most minutes of anyone, and you were up 30 for a majority of the game. So it's like, why was he out there so much? He had nothing left, and it's just true. One play didn't cause them to lose their 30-point lead, but one play did completely rewrite history, and it's just
down 3-1. Connor, it has happened before. The Cavs did it with Golden State, but it's not looking good for Wemby.
Man, I was sitting there after that game, just the 1,000-yard stare, didn't know what to think. My wife she's like, I'm just going to let you stew on this. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So she went ahead and went to bed, and I was just sitting there shell-shocked.
Wives got to know when to read the room.
Yeah, she's a big Taylor Swift fan, so she was just like, she was starting to say, like, it makes me happy seeing her happy, but it makes me sad seeing you sadder. And I was just like, I don't want to hear any of that. And I was like, so she made the right call.
It was cool seeing like Calipari was on the sideline sitting next to Adam Sandler. He posted a picture of him and Adam Sandler. And who else? I saw John McEnroe there. Spike Lee, of course. Yeah,
Ben Stiller's he's been
Ben
there. Ben
Stiller was a lot of camera time. Larry David.
Jerry Seinfeld had the.
Jerry Seinfeld was there in the red brick leather suede jacket.
Yeah.
I saw Jerry Seinfeld in New York in 2020, right before COVID. Me and my wife went to New York. We saw him at the Beekman Theater. I've always wanted to see him in person because I was a huge Seinfeld fan growing up. But anyway, that's beside the point. People are, interested in the NBA Finals, but we really want to talk about Davion Thompson.
Yeah.
Davion Thompson, just the next in line of 5-star commitments. In fact, Cal's last, I can't remember who he had in the previous class as the last commitment, but the last 4 guys have been committed, have been 5 stars, and this guy's the 5th 5-star. He's a composite 5-star, number 21 ranked player in the country. The big question with Davion Thompson is, for those who don't know, he's at a Link Academy, which is very familiar to Arkansas, but he's a class of 2027, and he's a point guard. Can shoot, dribble, great finisher, not like super explosive, but creative. But the question is, will he play in 2026, or will he be 2027, 2028?
Yeah, so throughout the last couple of weeks, when this thing was really picking up steam for Arkansas, it was pretty widely thought that he was going to announce his commitment and reclass to 2026 and be able to play immediately. Vanderbilt was after him as a potential Tyler Tanner replacement, and so if Tyler Tanner would have stayed in the NBA draft, Vanderbilt would have continued to push hard for him because they wouldn't have had really a lead guard to replace him. And so that was the thought. That was why Vanderbilt had a lot of steam early on in this thing as well. Arkansas, obviously, they lose Malik Thomas. The opportunity, minutes, and money, honestly, opens up right there. And so you see that fit really well for this roster. Even though you've already got Jordan Smith, you've got Jeremiah Wilkinson, you still need that lead point guard, that guy who can, not only score it in bunches, but also kind of be a table setter and really play make for others and get guys into their spots. And I think that you have that with Davion Thompson. So the thought process obviously was that he was going to reclassify with his announcement last night. That didn't happen. But from talking to everyone around the program, talking to those close to him, he wants to finish out his summer and obviously play the EYBL Peach Jam, which is next month. And he just kind of wants to finish what he started there. And then the plan is still, the expectation is still that he will reclassify and join the team at the end of the summer. He just won't join now and be able to get that extra work with them. He kind of wants to finish what he started. And when you think about it and you step back, as a kid, you're about to, really your high school life is about to end. You're about to really grow up here in August and fall when college starts. You might want to squeeze a few extra months if you can out of this kind of high school lifestyle and finish what you started with the teammates that you've had forever on the grassroots circuit. So I can kind of understand that from a human aspect of it, to where it's like he probably just wants to enjoy this last month without having to really grow up immediately and start his college journey.
Yeah, I hear that. It's interesting though. I mean, like, what are you really talking about in terms of the difference for him? Like for football players, obviously you get to play your senior year, but most of those guys enroll at semester. At a high school. For basketball, it's different because if you want to play, with your high school team, then, you're not going to be able to do that. So,
right.
But it's obviously a full semester earlier. So, anyway, something interesting to watch. Here's what Adam Finkelstein said about Thompson. Thompson is among the best shot makers in all of high school basketball. The southpaw, like a lefty, the southpaw is a threat off the catch and the dribble. Needs little separation to get it off, and is rarely fazed by being contested with a relatively high release point. More than that, he has a deep bag when creating his own offense because he's good with the ball, dictates his own pace, and is a crafty layup maker. Thompson's footwork is also a differentiator. On the catch, he has throwback ability to use jabs and an advanced understanding of how to utilize that space he creates. He's also adept at using his footwork at the tail end of his drives, maximizing his pivots to get defenders off balance and create small windows for him to capitalize on. Beyond his scoring prowess, Thompson's defense and ability to play the point are underrated and were especially visible during his recent USA basketball experience. This goes on and on, talks a little bit more about his ability to score, get to the rim. He's not like a super vertical guy, but he's extremely creative around the basket, and talks about his defense too. He's actually regarded as a good defender too. So it'd be interesting to add him to this group right now. You'd have five-star freshmen, Fab Five. 2.0 maybe. Anyway, Arkansas right now has J.J. Andrews, the number 12 ranked prospect in the country, Abdou Toure, the number 15 ranked prospect in the country, Toure recently moved up, Jordan Smith, number 2 ranked prospect in the country, and Mika Murinen, who isn't ranked because he's an international guy. What was he, like 15th in last year's class?
Yeah,
but also a 5-star. And then you've got Jeremiah Wilkinson, who's a 4-star transfer. I'm not sure where Jeremiah was ranked. Somewhere, I mean, he's a 4-star, so he's got to be fairly high. Transfer rankings, number 32 overall. And then Cooper Bowser, who is more of a lesser known. He was a 3-star transfer. He was the number 197 transfer. And then there's the possibility still, Connor, of them adding one more big out of the junior college ranks. Yeah, and I really like the there's a lot of smoke with that Shaw Hall guy who really just popped up the other night. He's watching a lot of film and kind of looking at what he brings to the table. He's a guy that obviously he's not the most polished prospect, but he's able to, what he does really well, he's easily plug and play from day one, I feel like. And so I think that he's a guy that to watch really closely, and that he's a guy that could really kind of elevate this roster and give Arkansas some of that physicality
and some of that rebounding and size inside that they're missing right now with this roster. And I think that when you talk about what this roster is lacking and what could be next, that's probably the last move. And I think that that's probably the move that you make that says, all right, we're ready to go. And that's that. It's obviously, I feel like this journey we've had, it feels never ending just because, now we're kicking the can down towards, Peach Jam to when Thompson will maybe decide to reclass. But it's been a never ending journey. And this offseason, I'm excited for it to finally come to an end and really, dive into this roster and get some practice footage and all that fun stuff to see what this team can do next season.
Yeah. Connor Goodson joining us on the Ozarks Go hotline, by the way, 479-684-4900 for fast, reliable, consistent internet service from a local company that won't jack your rates up year 1 to year 2. OzarksGo.net/Hawg, HAWG. So, Connor, what's next for Razorback basketball? Obviously, we're waiting on the JUCO Center, scheduling announcements, anything like that. What's kind of next on, I guess, the timeline based on your experience?
Yeah, so really, I think that they're still working on some things. I've heard a little scuttlebutt about a couple of different, games. Obviously, we talked about this on the board back in the middle of the season. The Cal's talked about the Gonzaga exhibition. We've seen the announcements for the Arizona non-conference game. Michigan State, obviously, on Thanksgiving. The trip to North Carolina for the ACC SEC Challenge has been announced, and it looks like that they're targeting one more big marquee name potentially to come to Bud Walton Arena. That should be, I think, announced or released here, in the coming days or weeks. But that really, you're looking at the roster, the roster being finalized with one more addition after Thompson, and then you're looking at getting the schedule, and then I don't know if Calipari is going to let us come up to Fayetteville to scout this team out and practice like he did last year, but that would be, that's coming up on the calendar. And then I think that now that you've seen this staff really go out, put the finishing touches on this roster, it's incomplete still, but you've got one more addition left. But they put the finishing touches on this. They're going to really start to shift momentum and focus towards this next 2027 cycle. And obviously look at different guys there. They're in on a lot of bigs. I'll have some stuff later this week, some intel on some different guys. But yeah, you're looking at finishing this roster out, just crossing some T's, dotting some I's with this final edition. Finalize this schedule, which is shaping up to be just as big of a schedule as it was last year. And then really get the ball rolling on this 2027 class, which obviously with Calipari, you're expecting it to be one of the best in the country as it is year in and year out.
All right, Connor. Appreciate you, bud.
All right. Thanks, Trey.
All right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson. Follow him at Connor Goodson on X and read his content at HawgSports, which, again, 60% off at HawgSports.com. Okay. We'll talk a little bit of football recruiting. First, I'd like to tell you about Bittle Armstrong. You guys know how much I value long-standing relationships. Well, I've known Bo Bittle for 25 years. And when I needed car insurance, when I needed homeowners insurance, and when I needed business insurance for HawgSports, I called Bittle Armstrong. Bo, Rob Armstrong, and their team have over 100 years combined experience. They work with you just like Auto Owners Insurance works with them. Expect local support from somebody you know. Questions about your policy? Call Bittle Armstrong direct rather than a 1-800 number. Auto Owners Insurance intended it that way so you don't have to wait on hold forever. Don't settle for a generic policy. Wherever you are in Northwest Arkansas, give Bittle Armstrong a call at 479-443-0808 or visit ba-ins.com. Auto Owners Insurance owns an AM Best rating A+ Superior. They trust people like Bo to work for you. Bittle Armstrong Insurance. Coverage you need, people you trust. So Arkansas recently, I don't know if we talked too much about Jabari Watkins. We did a little bit. I'm remembering now. But Jabari Watkins is one of the most recent Arkansas football commitments, a 4-star wide receiver out of Thomasville, Georgia in the class of 2027. Also had Nebraska, Cal, Duke, FSU, just a few of the schools that were after him. So a nice addition and kind of, again, follows a trend of what we're talking about in terms of like which prospects that Arkansas is going after in terms of the elite guys. It doesn't make a lot of sense for a program like Arkansas to go after highly rated guys at certain positions who aren't going to play for you for a couple of years when you can go out and get a redshirt sophomore out of the transfer portal and pay him to play right away. Kason Myers is the most recent Arkansas commitment out of Auburn, Alabama. Arkansas has been going into SEC towns and getting players. But Kason Myers is 6'2", 195 pounds, and number 60 ranked quarterback prospect, 42 on the composite, and also had Auburn, Boston College, Cincinnati, Houston, among others that were after him. So I think it's harder than ever for a high school quarterback to make an impact at the school that he enrolls at. I just think that most of the time teams are going to want to go after guys who are proven a little bit. And, sometimes that happens with the guys who enroll because there's an injury or something. They're forced into action. Okay, we got a guy here. But I say that, and Arkansas is literally using two guys that are very unproven that were recruited. KJ Jackson recruited from Arkansas, and A.J. Hill recruited from Memphis under Ryan Silverfield, both guys that are very unproven. So the highest rated commitment right now is Keith Richmond, who also committed last weekend. Keith Richmond out of Pinson, Alabama, is a 4-star edge guy, playing that jack position likely at Arkansas, 6'2", 225. Jabari Watkins. These are two very recent commitments, also a 4-star, and Odefi Aroru, who has been committed for some time, who's a 4-star. Jeremiah Dent just below that. Zacharias Huzzy, cornerback, just below 4-star ranking. Tegan Perizic also recently committed, an offensive lineman, 6'6", 295. Is next in line in terms of the guys that I've mentioned. Arkansas has 16 commitments, so we're looking somewhere around anywhere probably from 4 to as many as 9. Ryan Silverfield has said that he wants to sign a full class. So what does that mean exactly? 25 traditionally would be considered a full class. But Arkansas currently ranks 34th nationally, according to 24/7 Sports. So as far as like other guys to kind of keep an eye on, Danny West has a full breakdown on everybody to keep an eye on. But like guys who are like super highly ranked 4-star types, Alvin Mosley, a wide receiver out of Fort Bend Crawford High School in Rasharon, Texas. He's a class of 2027, obviously, but he's number 16 ranked wide receiver prospect in the country. He's deciding on June 27th. He's visited Ole Miss, and he has a visit coming up to Arkansas this weekend. He's also got Houston and Texas. Those are the schools that are considered in the mix for him right now. There is one crystal ball pick that has him going to Ole Miss, 6'2", 185-pound wide receiver. There's also Lawrence Britt, who's a 4-star wide receiver, the number 16th ranked athlete prospect in the country, 6'1", 178, no commitment timeline, but he visited Arkansas on May 29th, visited Iowa on June 1st, visited Missouri last weekend, and not this weekend, but the next weekend he's got a trip scheduled to Texas Tech, and Alabama is also one of the schools that have offered him. So it kind of goes along with what we're saying. Here's another one, Carice Hoyt out of Frisco, Texas, Lone Star High School, the number 17 athlete in the country, listed as a wide receiver. He's got Baylor, Arkansas, which he visited already on May 29th, Kentucky, Oklahoma State, UCLA, so on and so forth. 6'1", 200, also a 4-star prospect at wide receiver. Wide receiver is a position group where players come in and play early. You don't typically see that on the offensive line, at tight end, at quarterback. Usually those guys got to cook a little bit more. You see running backs. Arkansas's got Jeremiah Dent, who's just under 4-star status, but in terms of a guy that could come in and possibly play early, running backs, wide receivers, sometimes an edge rusher. Sometimes you find the right edge rusher who can come in and help you early. Very rarely going to find a defensive tackle unless, Danny Beals, 6'5", 348. I mean, there's possibly a role for him. Linebackers you don't usually see come in and play as freshmen. Safeties sometimes, but pretty rare. More often you're going to see a cornerback. So that really – there aren't any other guys that are like, there's some guys that are ranked, 400-something, 500-something at other positions, but not any like 4-stars and certainly not any 5-stars at the other position groups right now. Joshua Banks is a defensive back, a cornerback who is a 4-star, number 28 ranked cornerback prospect in the country, 236 overall. Colorado State, he's already visited. He visited Arkansas on June 9th and visits Texas Tech starting tomorrow. He's also got Arizona, Baylor, several others. You've got Caston Lewis, who is a safety cornerback type, 6 foot, 180, number 12 athlete in the country, number 231 overall. Visited Houston, visited West Virginia, visits Texas Tech this weekend, and has trips scheduled to Tulane and Arkansas, not this weekend, but the next. I don't know how that's going to work out because he's got June 18th and June 19th, so not sure if one of those gets moved or canceled or whatever. Hunter Hogg, you got to be a hog, Hunter Hogg. Haug, close enough. But number 216 nationally, a 4-star wide receiver. He's also, I think some have listed him as a defensive back. Number 10 athlete, TCU, which is the school that he's considered to lean to. He visited there. He visited Arkansas already. He visited Oklahoma State earlier this week, and then he's got Texas Tech coming up tomorrow, and also has Baylor and others in the mix there. So those are just some of the guys that are, highly recruited that are still on Arkansas's list. There's some other well-regarded prospects, but those are the highest recruited guys right now on Arkansas's list. Bet Saracen, if you use the promo code BIDDY250, capital B, lowercase IDDY 250, when you sign up and you put $25 down on your first bet, you will get $250 back in bonuses to bet on Bet Saracen. So pretty sweet deal to sign up right now. Arkansas's only local sports betting app, the number one sports betting app in Arkansas. There's World Cup stuff on there now. You can bet Mexico, South Africa, Republic of Korea, Chechnya. But a ton of that. UFC, NHL, obviously you got Vegas Golden Knights and Carolina Hurricanes, NBA, they've already got stuff for the next game. The line right now is San Antonio at -5. I guess they're returning back. Are they returning back to San Antonio? I think they are. Baseball regionals, all that kind of stuff still out there for you to bet on Bet Saracen. Arkansas's number one sports betting app, the local.
Arkansas's Fab 5 for Bet Saracen.
Yo, Sid, what spread you checking out, man?
I'm checking out the Hogs on Bet Saracen.
You know, Rainwater's exclusive specials and tons of Bet Saracen options make it Arkansas's favorite sports betting app.
And they take more action on the Hogs than any other sports book in the world.
Guys, I am confident it's because we do their TV ads.
I agree with that.
Amen.
Bet Saracen.
All right. So let's go to some questions now. Loading. Here we go. All right. T.S. Smith says, it looks like football. I've got a tickle right here in my nose I cannot get rid of. It looks like in football we are identifying 3-star talent either earlier than before is largely due to increased resources or just better overall scouting with the new staff. It's possible that, they do have increased resources. They do have a better scouting department, so it's possible. You probably mentioned to the offensive lineman that was recently offered by Georgia that Arkansas had already gotten ahead of from inside the state. But, you would expect them to do better scouting than they did previously. But also, I think there's more of an emphasis inside the state. Pittman kind of abandoned the state of Arkansas. And, in a lot of cases, there were like guys that they would target and recruit and stuff, and somebody else would come in and offer them and maybe offer more money. And Arkansas just was like, that doesn't really fit our value, And Arkansas players, for a stretch there weren't really living up to the recruiting hype too. So it's important for Arkansas players to live up to that hype. It's important for Arkansas as a program when they get an in-state guy for them to have success, ideally, that's obviously a two-way street there, but they should have a better scouting department than they've had in the past. And you want to keep the top guys inside the state if you can. I think that's important. You look at past Arkansas teams, they generally have Arkansas players leading the way. Timbo20 says Cal has done an awesome job recruiting for 1 through 4 positions. Still puzzled that we have not addressed the 5 better. It killed us last year and still have major questions. New 5 just needs to be elite rebounder and defender. Last year, team could have been a Final Four team and a chance to win it all, but our 5 position was so bad, just puzzled why that was not addressed. He does have a strong he has a reputation with big men too, but really with the guards. And I think with Cal, he also has a stronger reputation as a high school recruiter. And it seems like there are bigs and the Boozer twins, Pete, the guy from Arizona. Like there are examples of guys coming into high school that are dominant, but it seems like for the most part, guards can kind of come in earlier, and then the thought has kind of been like go after transfer portal bigs. And they tried that last year, but neither of those guys, Malik Ewan was okay, in terms of ranking. Nick Pringle wasn't super highly ranked as a transfer addition. We thought he was going to be a lot better than he was. But I think the thought has been bring in a guy who's a little bit older down low. But now all those older big men are the cost to get a guy like that is just skyrocketed. There's not many players who are, 7 feet tall. There's not many people in the world. I read something, it was a TED Talk or something, and it was like something about like if you know somebody who's 7 feet tall and they're under the age of 30, there was like a 40% chance that they're in the NBA right now. That's how rare it is to be that tall. So the prices for those guys have skyrocketed. I mean, you've got guys who are going to be second-round NBA draft picks who are getting lottery pick money out of college teams right now to play 35 games. It's kind of wild. So I think that's kind of what they ran into a little bit. I think maybe there was also kind of the thought that a basketball roster, championship basketball roster, is going to cost about $15 million. It's been more like $18 million. Ray Piggers says, why are your videos unavailable in restricted mode? Well, I don't know. They're just on YouTube. Razorback NYC always gives very well thought out. Basically, it's a long question, but he's basically asking why the fan base wants a proven 5, and it doesn't mean that they want a 28-year-old former NBA player, but Cal kind of acts like that. Is basically what he's saying. None of us would be okay with a manager or a business we own preventing our business from reaching its full potential over a personal opinion. Like the manager has with something publicly defending his stance. Basically, he's saying Cal wants to recruit, kids out of high school and progress them and all that kind of stuff. I think that's really Calipari's strength is recruiting out of high school ranks. I think that's probably a big part of it for him. Is just kind of how he's done things, and we'll see. I mean, like you're right. He does have championship pay, championship resources. And we want to see championships, right? And I think it's a little early to say like his formula for the guys that he's brought in. I mean, they're not going to have a stud 5. They're just not. And really, do you even need that? You need a tree in the middle who can alter shots, block shots, rebound when it's there. I mean, you've got so many athletes around there that you really just need a big body who can do what I said, alter shots and stuff. But I'm good with Cal managing my business for basketball. Big DC 77 says Trey was the OL from Ohio that was denied his extra year of eligibility as starter, or was more of a depth piece. Davion Weatherspoon, transferred from Ohio, is all MAC. He was denied his 6th year of eligibility by the NCAA. He was a backup interior offensive lineman. I would say he was probably, you have your 3 starters. Cash Courtney's probably the next swing guy at the guard spots. So he's probably the 5th best interior offensive lineman. To be honest, I think he was and he played well against Ohio State apparently, but to me, I just felt like he is a little limited. I mean, he's shorter than I am. I don't even know if I'm 6'1" anymore. I'm 48 years old, so I'm shrinking, I'm sure, but he's shorter than I am, So to me, like, I just think you're limited. And he wasn't a center; he was a guard. So the farther out you get, the more limited you get with your length. So yeah, a backup basically to answer your question. Dr. Scotty Mack says, is Coach Cal the Dabo of basketball? Great coach and national championship in yesterday's game, but refusal to totally play the portal game and pay what is needed and be transactional, has limited upside, top 20. So a few people have that opinion that maybe he could do a better job luring in portal players. What I've heard is just like, again, it's like monopoly money for some of these big guys who are good but aren't like first round picks. And Cal has kind of had a stance that he would rather have potential versus experience. He's always said that. So I like the team that he's put together. I do wish that there was a big that you felt really good about, but yeah. I mean, I think we all feel that way. Like, it felt like there was 5 or 6 guys out there who are big men. You're just kind of like, this would be a nice addition. And none of them are stars. I think it's just the price for these guys is just so high. And you're just like, for what, 6.5 points and 5 rebounds? And then there's a presence, having a presence down there also matters, and being able to stop other teams that have that kind of guy. Joshua 11 says, Trey, outside of D-line, what other position groups do you think was improved the most? And also, when does summer workouts start, and when will you be able to get intel on how they're going? They're in summer workouts now. They do an 8-week training cycle in the summer and in the winter. So they're in that now. And fall camp should start around August 5th. Maybe that's report day, but around then. You get basically 29 days out from the start of the first game. So whatever that is, I think it's September 5th. So outside of D-line, what position group has improved the most? I definitely think D-line is one. Outside of that, cornerback, I think, could be. Like Julian Neal was drafted, but I'm not like – and I would include the nickel in that group. Maybe I should just say secondary overall. I mean, Julian Neal was drafted, but it's not like he was just outstanding last year. I mean, the secondary is pretty bad overall. D-line, secondary. Trying to think on offense. I think the offensive line should be either comparable, maybe not quite as good, maybe a little better, somewhere around where they were. Maybe have more playmakers at wide receiver this year. I'm going to say secondary, and I get to include the nickel in that spot because nickel wasn't very good last year. I think they're better at cornerback. I still have questions at safety, but Lord, could they be worse? I've said that before and been wrong, and they have been worse. So I'll say secondary. Pittsburgh Squealer says, is the captain of the defense either going to be House or Shaw or someone else? I think it could be both of those guys. House was a team captain at North Carolina, so he's kind of got those team captain chops. And Ron Roberts has said this is Bradley Shaw's team. He didn't say defense. He said this is Bradley Shaw's team. So I think probably both of those guys. Brown 1994 says Jelani Watkins is showing out at world-class level in track. Will he ever play football, and how will the coaches use him? I think he will, but last guy that was, putting up world-class number, I mean, what was it? Why have I forgotten his name? But he ran, it was wind 80, but it was like seventh fastest time in history of the world. So he definitely had a big future. I would hope that Jelani Watkins would see 1 year, is football for him, or does he need to stick to track? But he ran like a 10.07, 10.3 or something at the West Regionals. So that's pretty good. Boss Hog 1121 says, with the new stadium naming rights deal, do you think it'll lead to any extra enhancements made to Razorback Stadium in the future, maybe some LED light features? LED lights are in the future for Razorback Stadium. I mean, everybody is doing it. Arkansas, I feel like, I don't know who doesn't have it in the SEC, but I feel like most schools have it now. I know Tennessee does, Ole Miss does, South Carolina, Alabama. I assume most everybody, Texas. So yeah, it's in the future for the stadium, but and that should be released sometime this month. We don't know when exactly. I was just told expect an announcement in June. So something should be coming along down the pipe here pretty soon. Okay, I'm gonna check the comments, see if we got anything interesting there. Cal had 6 5-stars in 2013. Josh Garrett says, I've been contemplating going to the Utah game. Going to try and get my dad to go with me. Utah favored by 10. I booked that. I'm probably going to book this Texas A&M trip next now that I know the kickoff time. So, okay, that's it. All right. Hey, go check out Back Nine Golf at the Back Nine. theback9golf.com. What is it? theback9golf.com, and you can book a free demo. There's 4 hitting bays, a pool table, bar with seating, televisions everywhere, 2 massage chairs. It's a real, I don't know how many televisions in there, but I would bet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would bet there are at least 10 televisions in that place. But it's a great setup, 4 of those hitting bays, and they're the cool ones where like you hit the ball and they've got lasers pointing at the screen so the ball automatically flies. There's not like a delay when you hit it and stuff, but you can really improve your game, especially when it gets colder, when it's raining. Book a free demo in Fayetteville. All right, everybody, appreciate you joining. Thanks to Connor Goodson for hopping on, and of course, thank you to all of our sponsors. Couldn't do the show without you guys watching, of course, so we really appreciate that. Sign up at HawgSports for 60% off. This has been Trey Bitty with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.